Very good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of philosophy. And we have finished the first chapter from Robert's philosophy. What has homeopathy to offer to a young man? And he has very nicely elaborated all the aspects of homeopathy. And if you have really a burning desire to treat the suffering humanity, homeopathy offers a lot to the young man. That's what he has concluded, and he explains over there at the in the conclusion that it's always better that the question should be asked to a young man, what you are going to offer to a homeopathy. It depends upon that, and that is the answer which he has mentioned over there. The second chapter which he starts is the introduction to the study of homeopathy. And this chapter is again, it is not just a superficial introduction where he tried to explain the details about the homeopathy. It's really a good to learn. So we'll start with chapter number 2, the introduction to the study of homeopathy. If a physician would successfully practice medicine, he must know first what is curable by medicine and second what is curative in drugs. This is nothing but the introduction to the third aphorism in the 6th edition of Organon of Medicine, knowledges of the physician, and where Hahnemann puts this question. He must know, the physician must know what is curable by the medicine. That is more important, what he can cure and what he cannot. That is a big question. It, it means you must know where is the horizon of homeopathy. We have learned while learning the Stuart Close philosophy, this specific entity, the scope of homeopathy. So once you understand that, and second important point, what is curative in your drug? That is more important. What will going to cure? It is not a primary action that medicinal directly action on the human being will going to cure the patient. It is that dynamics which will going to cure the dynamics of the daily dynamics of the human being. If you understand these both questions, both points, then you will really understand what can be treated with the homeopathy. The physician must know something of the history of development of drug action, of the gradual experiments with the remedial substances upon healthy human beings, and the data gathered therefrom over long period of careful observations, which have been checked and verified again and again, both in experimental provings and in clinical use. The basis upon which this knowledge of the drug action is built is profound and basic element of homeopathic procedure. So what he says is very correct, that most important thing is knowledge of drugs, and we acquire the knowledge of drugs. Most important method is by drug proving on healthy human being. The data which we collect from proving will guide us exactly in understanding the action of the medicine on the human being and our human reactions against that specific stimulus. So very, very important thing is that what is the depth of that remedy that we can understand with the help of drug proving, and because of which we can utilize that remedy on the basis of symptom similarity in the suffering patient. So first important thing is to know exactly what is curative in drug. By the time the physician has become somewhat acquired with these guides, he is in a position to go forward and erect the structure of future medical career upon basis that is immovable, that does not change with every theory, every new theory that arises upon the medical horizon. If we look thoughtfully at the medical literature over a period of years, we find it one kaleidoscopic panorama of ever-changing theory and practice. These are the words of Hahnemann which he has utilized over there. What he says, once you understand what is there in the homeopathy, once you understand the fixed principles, the cardinal principles, the 7 cardinal principles which are never changing, then you will definitely have a scope of practicing homeopathy, and you have to learn them by heart. But if you look towards the another science called as a modern medical science or allopathy, there is no question of such a law or a principle, then everyone comes out with something new, new thoughts. And that thought remains for some time. Then someone comes with another idea. Then that works for some other time. And this is ever changing. The words which Hahnemann have used is very important, that it one kaleidoscopic panorama of ever-changing theory and practice, and that he has called or labeled to the allopathy. It is like a kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope, when you look through the kaleidoscope, every time there is new diagram, new change, new picture. The same is there with allopathy. Every time some new thought is there. It is not fixed, not eternal like homeopathy. Big difference between the two pathies. Very big difference. And that's why he explains over there, homeopathy, if you understand by heart with all laws, then you will understand the depth of it. Further, he says, homeopathy, on the other hand, is ever capable of development, while the principles remains the same. So, homeopathy is developing, but at the same time, principles are fundamental. They are never changing. They are rigid. Homeopathy is founded upon principles that are again founded upon natural laws. These natural laws are basic. They are more eternal than hills. For these laws were formulated before the hills came into the being. So this is very clear that whatever the laws are there in homeopathy, the seven cardinal principles, right from law of similia, law of simplex, law of minimum dose, the doctrine of vital force, the doctrine of drug proving, doctrine of drug dynamization, and doctrine of chronic diseases. So all seven cardinal principles are fixed principles. They are eternal. They are based upon the natural laws. So they go hand in hand with the natural laws, and because of which there is no question of changing. They are so fixed and they are prior to the heels. If a man follows where homeopathy leads, he must be able to follow those laws and to hold close to them regardless of pressure or influence. On the other hand, the very principles which he follows stabilize him and make him sure in his work. So, if you understand those laws thoroughly, if you understand them properly, and if you practice them properly, you don't have to ask anyone the opinion. What you have to follow is just the laws of homeopathy or principles of homeopathy. This stability can be maintained equally well in chronic work, in acute cases, and amidst of the panics of epidemics of unknown origin such as influenza, poliomyelitis, outbreaks of such conditions as encephalitis. For here, as in all other manifestations of illness, the fundamental laws remains firm and intact, and they are sufficiently basic to provide a sure guide to the health. So these are the laws which are useful while treating the acute disorders. They are useful while treating the chronic disorders. They are useful while treating the pathological cases. They are useful while treating the epidemics, pandemics, etc. Because there is no question of changing a view. Even though whatever the variety you are going to treat, you are going to treat it with the same method. You don't have to change the method according to the disease. This never happens in the allopathy. And then he says, a man who adopts the homeopathic methods must be free from prejudice and able to look fairly at a disease condition from a new angle. So this is the sixth aphorism where Hahnemann says one of the important qualities the homeopath should born is unprejudiced observation, freedom from prejudice, unbiased. Very difficult to achieve, but if you achieve, then definitely you are going to find it out very right remedy for the patient. He must look at the patient as an individual, not as a disease, and he must treat the patient and not the disease. The more fundamentals of the homeopathy. So you have to treat the individual and not his disease. You must learn that the symptoms that underlie under ordinary training would have been discarded as the confusing issue are as of no value are the very symptoms of which to the homeopathic physician simplify the case and provide the strongest clues to the surest methods of assistance. So there are many symptoms which the from ordinary school or from modern medicine it doesn't have significance. For the homeopath, those symptoms opens the key or opens up the exactly key to the remedy. So this is very important. Patient comes and says something, and which is for layman, it doesn't have meaning, but for homeopath, that sentence is having very clear meaning. If it repeats in the case, then definitely you are damn sure what patient wants to suggest, and you are damn sure about the remedy. So this is the difference between one pathy and homeopathy. So certain important common features are very useful for the homeopathic physician in order to reach to understand the human being. There are patients who comes to your OPD and they enters and they talks to you and they are in a mild tone talking to you, and then you tell them that doctor, dear patient, you're going to get, you'll require 6 months time to recover. He says, no, doctor, it doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. You take 1 year, 1.5 years, but you cure me. He talks it in a mild way. He talks in such a tone that he's ready to take your treatment for years together. But only thing is that he expects you to cure him. So here, this sentence is common from the allopathic point of view, but for a homeopath, it has a meaning. And you get the rubric, that is the state with which patient comes, that carried desires to be slowly, only remedy, pulsatilla with mildness. So you can get the exact nature of the patient with the common sentences. He must possess the sense of values. That's what we have learned yesterday. He must know what is important for him and what is not important for him, and be able to train himself to observe and interpret those signs which manifest themselves through the habits and circumstances of the patient into the indications of health restoring medication which he has at his command. So patient presents with many things. There are some patients enters inside your clinic and they are continuously throughout the case taking, they are frowning. This you can catch very easily. This is the tax which you have to catch. The frowning, you look on patient's face has meaning, and we have a rubric. Frown is supposed to be. You can observe that the faces of the patient, they are absolutely greasy. You just counter check that whether they have applied any moisturizer. If it is not, then face greasy is another thing which you can catch. You have to train yourself for the observational rubrics. You have to train yourself to catch what patient says. You have to train yourself to understand or perceive what patient wants to say. Then it becomes rather simple to reach to the remedy with the help of that. So he is explaining all those things. In other words, he must learn to observe and record cases from homeopathic angle. So what is homeopathic angle? Homeopathic angle is nothing but looking towards the individual instead of looking towards the disease. That is a homeopathic angle. So you have to understand nature of the person, and that nature of the person is represented with the same signs and symptoms, which is represented through the nature of the person, which is represented in the body language, which is represented in the patient's language, it is represented in the communication, and you can, with the help of communication skill, you can catch all those. The diagnostic viewpoint, which has featured so largely, what is this? The diagnostic viewpoint, which has featured so largely in his training, must here take a different place in his perspective. He must take time to trace the source of disturbance and the remedy to fit the complete picture, always basing the process upon the sound rock of natural law. So, yes, you must diagnose. You must know the disease, but your treatment should not be based upon it. You should not look towards the disease for the prescription point of view. Instead of that, you look towards that human being, understand that human being, understand nature of that person, and finds it out remedy for that patient which will work and remove that disease automatically. Once you treat the center, you will treat periphery automatically, and that concept should be very clear in your mind. Further, he says, homeopathy opens up vista of opportunities for continually seeking new fields for the demonstration of natural laws. For if, as we believe, These laws are fundamental, their application is universal, and had we the vision to see it, we would be convinced not from its application in the field of medicine alone, but in every field of natural science and in applied science as well. So what he says here, that when you look towards such opportunities with the help of homeopathy, there are n number of opportunities. You can work with homeopathy for the drug proving on animals. That is another aspect where you can concentrate. There is an opportunity to work hard for the disease and homeopathic medicine, the study, a retrospective study, and develop the therapeutic method. There are many more opportunities are there in the field. Such types of works are not done, or such types of scientific works from modern point of view are not yet done in homeopathy properly. If you go for it, then there are a number of opportunities are open for you to reach to that. The vista in the field of medicine, which is opened up for care under the homeopathic method of treatment, is a wide one, and cure is always accomplished with the least possible disturbance to the patient and in the gentlest manner. Yet, with the most profound effect on the whole individual. Homeopathy is a system of medicine upon which we can depend to set the individual system in order and patient on the high road to the recovery, if recovery is possible. If we fail, we may know that the failure is ours, and in that we have not fully compassed the case or a knowledge of remedies. In a field so vast, it is conceivable that not all available agencies have been developed it been developed, and our own ignorance may limit us in the use of those remedies which we already have. But those who study homeopathy with an unprejudiced mind and those who have practiced it faithfully and purely can and do attest its unsurpassed results when conscientiously applied to the sick. So, homeopathy is the basic science. If you grasp the laws, if you grasp the knowledge of remedies, if you grasp the fundamental principles in homeopathy, and learn you do the study of human being, you do the study of philosophies, then it is rather simple to understand the remedy of the person. Then you can treat any type of disease once you have understood the basic principles of homeopathy. But sometimes, because of the vast field, sometimes you may fail. The failure is not of homeopathy, it is failure of ours to reach to the right remedy. And this happens many times because in the first consultation, we cannot understand the human being thoroughly. And because of which we cannot prescribe right remedy to the patient on the day one. So sometimes it happens that you should not get a remedy on day one. If a chain is if a chain is no stronger than its weakest link, we must examine links individually, one by one, and not determine their strength or weakness by testing complete chain as our first measure. The very foundation of homeopathic practice considers man not only as an individual but as a complete and unit in himself, of which all his parts comprise a well balanced whole. Homeopathy, therefore, does not consider any one part as being ill, but considers the manifestation of illness as in one part in its relation to the whole human being. So he is explaining over there the concept again that homeopathy never deals with the parts. It is not the thing look, or it is not the way to look with the allopathic angle to look towards the parts which are presenting the symptom. It is looking toward the human being. Consider the human being, understand his signs and symptoms in relation with the whole human being, understand the mind, understand the emotional states, understand the past history, understand the family history, understand the constitution, understand the miasm, and then with the whole unit you can understand that human being. And then once you get right remedy, then that remedy will work for the patient forever. So the method is very clear. There is no question of a double mind which can develop over there. But you are damn sure, yes, this is the method which one has to follow. And if you follow that, then there is no question of becoming wrong over there. So I think it's better to stop over here. The next paragraph we'll discuss tomorrow. There are many things which he has tried to explain in this specific chapter. So we'll stop over here, and today evening definitely we'll meet. Yesterday, because of guests, it was not possible to reach to you, but today evening definitely we'll meet. So that's all for today. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
Thank you.